Hi, this is Bob Samuels, founder of TechConnector. TechConnector is a transparent marketplace and campaign management platform of best-of-breed B2B lead generation solutions. We've partnered with the B2B Marketing Exchange to bring you wisdom from leading account-based marketing thought leaders. To that end, I'd like to introduce you to John Steinert, Chief Marketing Officer of Intent Data Marketing Leader, TechTarget. John, it's a pleasure to speak with you today. How are you?
It's good to be back. I'm great. I'm looking forward to seeing you again in Scottsdale.
Outstanding. The B2B MX is one of my favorite events. I always look forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's got a different culture. It's practitioners talking to practitioners, and vendors like us just kind of get out of the way.
That's well said. Well said. So, excuse me. So, if you can give a little bit of a background to our audience about your background in B2B marketing and ABM, intent marketing, that sort of thing.
Sure. My background is I've been in B2B tech marketing for longer than I care to admit, but I've always found it fascinating and evolving every year. I joined TechTarget about 4 years ago as we really started to mature the availability of our purchase intent data to the tech audience. And it's been a real kind of rocket ship in the adoption, first by marketers and then by sales. And I bring that up because that's kind of the linkage into ABM that I wanted to say a little bit more about today.
So thank you for sharing that. So the evolution is fascinating, and you're part of an outstanding company. And so if you could explain a little bit about TechTarget. It used to be a publishing company. What's the evolution looking like?
Yeah, it still is a publishing company, but in the early days of publishing on the internet, the way to monetize the investment you made in providing information to your readers was strictly through advertising. We were very lucky in that our approach to really breaking into that market was to go very narrow and deep, and to provide information that wasn't available elsewhere to tech buyers. And in the process of doing that, and figuring out how to do that at scale, we also figured out how to manage permission and how to capture very, very granular data about the content consumption patterns of the audience. So with that infrastructure in place, as it became apparent that the users within tech vendors really wanted to take advantage of this behavioral insight, we were able to pivot because we had permission to share this information and manage and sell that data directly to tech vendors who want, as you know, so badly to better connect to their buyers. And that's built our business dramatically over the last 5 years in the data space.
What's interesting is you're in the information business, the intelligence business. There's value in the information you're providing your readers, your audience, and there's also value, maybe even more value, in the value of the information related to the interactions to the vendors.
Yeah, I think that there's clear value. There's an entire industry providing information that assists tech buyers in buying very complicated products, but that's called the analyst industry. And their model is to use very expensive subscriptions. The other approach is to say, let's make this information free because people need the information. But if you do that, you have to figure out how you're going to make a living. And so that's where you get into the idea of, can I use the data versus having a paywall, whether it's a big subscription or a small monthly subscription. It's still, the paywall is the same way a newspaper does it and an analyst firm does it. So we decided to make the information free, and the value exchange for the user is we get explicit permission from them to share their behavior and their contact information with tech vendors. And so that's the deal, and that's how we make our money.
Well, I think it's brilliant. Looking at both sides, as a user, free is good. When Google knows everything about me, they share a lot of my information. In theory, that intent data, if you will, helps the advertisers reach out to me with at least things that are relevant to me, as opposed to giving me a Pampers ad or something like that.
Well, so that's a pretty good segue. So if you look at, I think, pretty good examples of using data to improve customer experience, I can think of two just, right in the front of my mind. Amazon is very good. They have very good suggestions for me. And Netflix is very good. They have very good suggestions based on what I seem to have enjoyed in the past. It's that kind of customer experience that we're going for. Now, when we share the data with customers, our vendors, it really now is incumbent on them to make sure they learn how to provide a good experience to the buyers they're looking to help with a business problem. And that's the pivot, the segue I want to make here today to talk about that idea in relation to the concept of ABM. Because I think we're at the beginning of an inflection point in ABM. There's a big question, not that everybody shouldn't be doing it, but how, in fact, do you get to scale? I had this interesting experience earlier in my career where I was all excited to present to a client from IBM about the great success we'd been having with some programs we were doing for him. And we could show that we had impacted $200 million of revenue for IBM. But he opened with a question, how do you think you're doing? What is your impact on my revenue? And then he said, I'm the general manager of the Intel-based division here at IBM. And I really don't get interested in anything that doesn't impact at least $1 billion of revenue. And so early in my career, I started to think about, solutions are all well and good, marketing and sales solutions, but unless they're scalable, their value to your company isn't particularly great. So that when I think about ABM and I think about sort of the purest ABM as described by ITSMA, you talk about one-to-few or one-to-one ABM. And I just don't think that's exciting enough to adopt all the really important things about ABM that most companies need to make it a movement. So I take a step back and I look at the wisdom from this guy from IBM and I think about, who else in the company is really doing things from an account-based perspective? And it is kind of obvious, right? That's the way sales is organized. So that outlines for me the very clear point that there are all kinds of things the sales team is trying to do from an account-based perspective, right down to the individual salesperson who has a very well-defined territory. So in fact, I think that each salesperson at a client is essentially an ABM practitioner. So I start there, kind of bottom up, and say, how would I help that salesperson? So let me segue that into what we're going to be talking about, or what ServiceNow, our client ServiceNow, is going to be talking about at B2BMX, because they're going to take this idea that you got to work both bottom up and top down, and you've got to grow scale. And they're going to explain a little bit about how the behavioral information that's built into our purchase intent platform called Priority Engine got them interested in how to increase revenue from a specific list of accounts, and then how they built a process to take advantage of it in one product area or one solution area, and then scaled it quickly across multiple solution areas. So they prototyped it, they got results, and they scaled that model by using it and implementing it faster and faster each time they did it.
Wonderful. So continuous improvement.
Yeah, continuous improvement, lots of sharing, lots of behind the scenes, making sure that process handoffs are not broken, making sure that both sales and marketing are looking at the same data set, making the same observations instead of just throwing things over the fence to each other, all that kind of thing. Viewing the same dashboards, recognizing the visibility of demand at the opt-in contact level within an account means something whether or not you've dropped a lead. Understanding the difference between levels of qualification. So a lead for you is different from an active prospect you can see on the TechTarget network. And what are you going to do? But can you add those together? How do you determine if there's an opportunity? Are you held back by the fact that in most organizations, it's the salesperson, an individual, who determines whether an opportunity will be open? Or in reality, can you look at demand you can see in the account from the activity captured by TechTarget's priority engine? And can you, as a team, say, we see this opportunity, we're going to go after it as a team?
Makes sense. So one of the things that seems interesting to me is the fact that the intent data that you can provide also includes, points of discussion. It gives a salesperson something to talk about because they know not just that a person's interested in a certain topic, but what article did they read, or what white paper did they download, or what specifically were they interested in, so they can have something to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. So you can see as a marketer yourself that that kind of information is super useful to marketing teams who are trying to build nurture streams that will drive engagement. The thing is that that's exactly the same thing that's useful to salespeople. So salespeople are going to look at it specifically through the lens of their territory. So what we do is within their territory, we're going to rank the accounts that are present there on how active they have been on certain content. And then when you look inside the account, you will see the people who have been active, what they've been active on, what content they're consuming from TechTarget, editorial content, what content they're consuming from your competitors on the TechTarget network, and what content they've consumed from you that has made them a lead, that they're looking at on your website, and so on. So it's combining first-party intent, because we're sucking in that from the client systems, with what we call second party, but many know as third party intent, which is behavior we see on our network. That's how we can get the competitive information.
So, so it sounds like they're able to take your information and they're able to triangulate that with the information they have as their first party data. And then there's other third party data out there that they can match up against as well, should they choose.
Sure. I'm not sure there's so much need to do that, because in our platform, we've got the HG Insights firmographic stuff, technographic stuff. We've got firmographic data. They can match the records, definitely. And the two sets, the first party and the second party intent, are completely additive. And it's the scoring of that ad that helps them understand qualification levels, so that they can prioritize how they're going to reach out. Is it going to be marketing in a nurture stream? Is it going to be SDR? Is it going to go right to a field salesperson? So they determine their plays based on the level of the intensity of the intent interactions.
Very nice. So your presentation next week with ServiceNow, what are some of the other key things that people can maybe expect to hear or learn from that? So
they're going to hear, really, it's a full-blown presentation with two people from two different solution areas. And they're going to hear about how they went from in about 2017 to today, to adopting an intent-driven approach, both across marketing and sales, and where they're looking forward to make additional innovations around that. So they have something like 8 different solution categories, and a very interesting situation in that what they do is not well understood by a lot of companies. So they'll talk about, well, we compete in the HR category, but we're not really an HR software provider. We compete in the customer service category, but there really isn't a category recognized by the analyst community called customer service. So in that situation, what do you do? If there's not a category, you can't say, well, we form a category of one and you should listen to us. You have to associate your company with something that buyers are familiar with. You have to give them context. So they'll talk about how you create context, and then they'll talk about how you find audiences, and they'll talk about how you define personas based on who in the market is interested in solving problems that you can solve. And so they'll back into, here is the situation, and then here's what we get from a company like TechTarget, and here's how we action that using intent data in our systems, both in marketing and sales.
Excellent. That sounds great. So a couple other questions before I let you go. So GDPR privacy. I mean, the flip side of being able to target so well is the potential in privacy concerns. You're getting opt-ins, so I guess you're fully covered.
Yeah. So GDPR, CCPA are super important from the perspective of customer experience. Now, what we believe in our hearts is that companies who can demonstrate real empathy for customers will not have problems obtaining permission themselves. And that's exactly how we obtain permission, right? We work very hard to understand what audiences need to make purchase decisions. We build editorial content to help them do that. They give us permission because of it. An interesting thing that's popped up recently is about the Google Chrome thing, with not allowing third-party cookies, which may impact the advertising market. The same situation applies there, that we get permission to cookie on our network so that we can supply relevant content, and that allows us to supply relevant advertising to our members. So we're not going to be affected by that either.
Good. And the way you're handling your privacy is worldwide. So whatever you're doing to satisfy GDPR, you're satisfying for US and every other country.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, because we have a lot of big clients in addition to small clients, and we have clients who are based all over the world, it's a pretty good idea to try to say, let's do it the best possible way and satisfy all of them at once.
Yep. Okay. So if you could put your crystal ball hat on for a moment, what do you see in a year or 5 years from now? What are we going to be talking about as far as ABM or intent marketing?
So I'm super excited about what AI is doing in pipeline management. And what I think I'm going to see a lot of, what we're going to see a lot of, is a real focus on improving the creation of opportunities and the pursuit of opportunities in the pipeline. So if you go from ABM and sales and marketing collaborating, but the rubber hits the road and the revenue comes from managing pipeline, I really see greater focus on pipeline and the combination of second and third party data about what you can't see in your own first party systems with first party data that was hard to get inside your own systems, because there's so many systems in the stack and they're not really talking together, for a much better picture of what real opportunity and potential is inside your target accounts, and then more proactive pursuit of that.
So there's a lot of good information hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, and it really is hidden. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
And
So
you
that's some
know,
nice treasures.
yeah, if you just think about Outlook or Gmail being where people are interacting, or even telephone, and that's not getting into your CRM, so you don't even know that happened.
Yeah. Very good. Um, John, it's a pleasure. Any other words of wisdom before I let you go?
Anybody who's missing B2B MX this year, you got to put it on your calendar for next year. It's a great way, especially since it's early in the year, to really get a jump on the year.
John, it's a pleasure to speak with you. I look forward to seeing you at the event next week. Take care.
See you there.